Microphone check. How y'all hear me? Let me see here. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Thank you for showing up. If you come in, hit the thumbs up. Share it if you have the capabilities, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. You know, all that good stuff. And you could watch it like several times. Get some positivity in your algorithm. So part of content creation is, you know, getting your thumbnails and your countdowns and all of those things all set. So I've been messing around with Canva. I drop a little my little countdown and then bring the guest on up.
We would be honored if you would join us.
What's going on, Corey?
I'm chilling, good brother. How are you?
I'm good. You know, getting into the live stream, and I was trying to figure out like who was going to be the first guest I had when I started doing live. So most people know that, you know, I do the recordings, edit, all of that good stuff. Live is a whole different animal. So I was trying to figure out who would be my first live guest. And you just so happened to hit me with like, hey, you know, I just released new music, and it was like, boom, it was perfect. So I was like, I'm gonna have him up if you would, you know, if you wanted to come up, first of all. But so I reached out and you came through for me. So what's good? How you been?
Man, listen, been good, like we talked about before, just getting over COVID and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But for the most part, man, I've been great, man. Can't complain too much. My family good, and just trying to enjoy as much as is good warm weather as possible.
That's what's up. I'm gonna get, this is our second time around. I'm gonna play the promo just to give everybody a little quick, you know, story of your situation, your life, and then we'll jump right in and we'll talk a little bit. So let me find that. Let me find the promo and then we'll get into it.
That's what's up. One of my friends was calling out to me like, yo, Pheez, stop playing. I'm always joking around and kidding with people, but you know, in my heart, I'm like, bro, I'm not playing. Like, I need help. And so they brought me out of the water, and I was laid on the beach, and I was just like panting, like I couldn't catch my breath, and the wind was knocked out of me. And I could just remember asking, like, where are my arms? Because I couldn't feel my legs. And they're like, yo, they're next to you. And I was thinking, like, if my arms are up, because that's what they felt like I was in the position of diving, so almost like muscle memory. I was like, if they're up, then that's good. Then maybe it's just numb or what have you. They're like, they're on the side of you. So I knew, like, from the time I broke my neck to when they pulled me out, I knew I was paralyzed. Recovery isn't just a physical thing. It's mental and it's spiritual. And like everybody says that until you actually in a position where you got to test that notion. So it was always like there. I know it's like you wake up and you can't move. So it's like what can I do? That intro is so dope, man.
I was messing around with it, man. Canva, I love Canva. Just in case anybody want to know what I did that on was Canva, and it's really user friendly. So, and I'm like, when it comes to tech stuff, man, I'm way behind. So if I could do it, if I could find, what I'm saying, a little lane in there, and I'm just trying to avoid all my stuff coming out sounding the same because you get comfortable with something and
Yeah. That repetitiveness turns into redundancy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Kind of like, all right, I gotta like spice it up a little bit.
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna get the geeky stuff out the way first because I'm a Star Wars fan. Did you watch the Obi-Wan series?
No, I have not, man. So because my thing is this, like, yo, Star Wars kind of like Lord of the Rings, except Lord of the Rings like kind of like knew where to stop before like they started branching out into the shows. With Star Wars, my problem is everything was just kind of like backwards. Like from like the very first episode where like you end up finding that you find out like and you're fighting Darth Vader to like 20 years later, then you want to talk about Darth Vader's origin and what have you. So it gets confusing. You got to toggle back and forth. Now, granted, I got like the anthology and what have you of like the first 6 episodes and whatnot. I heard the series is pretty good and what have you, but it's just like, man, there's just so many of them. I don't. Sometimes I'm just like, man, like, where to start? How do I get into it? But like, what's your take on the show thus far with the Obi-Wan?
It was good. I thought it was good. They messed around with a little bit, like the real hardcore fans won't appreciate it, but they messed around with a little bit of like the lore and all of that. But I thought it was good. But since you didn't, I'm just leave that there where it's at. I was hoping that you did see, so we could start.
Yeah, man.
We could bore people with that, but.
Oh man, no, it's so hard to keep up with so many different shows, especially like I'm into like Game of Thrones and whatnot, and they got a new joint coming out next month. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like the same thing. Like they started at this one particular point, and then now they're going back. Not prior to what happened, like immediately before, like what led up to like Game of Thrones, but now they're going 300 years before that, which I don't know if writers for shows do that because of like we don't know how successful the initial show is going to be, but I feel like, man, y'all should have started 300 years before Game of Thrones. That way, it gives you a better timeline instead of having to like try to like flip back the pages.
I never seen one episode of Game of Thrones.
Oh my gosh. I mean, listen, bro. It's not for everybody for sure, but like in terms of like plots and sequences and just man's desire for like ultimate power, you know what I mean? That's really what's on display. But it is a dope show. I ain't gonna front about that.
Right. So part of this too, y'all got to excuse me, it's hot in here, but I got some stuff I wanted to chop it up with you too. But if you don't, we can get some of the stuff when we get questions from the chat. You cool with that too?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I got one question so far. It's from you wanted to know, is it better to watch Game of Thrones now or watch the new one coming out?
Yeah, okay. So if I'm being honest about it, I feel like if you watch it from the new show to this, it's going to make a little bit more sense, because in the Game of Thrones, right, like as the show was for the 8 series, they talk about all these past events that occurred. So I would say like when it drops in August, I would start there and then work your way through all the way up into Game of Thrones. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. So this is our second time around, and you blessed me with an interview already, and through we kept in contact. So through the communication that we've had, conversations, and you continue to make music, you inspire me to cherish every day with what you describe as easy listening during hard times. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, man, I feel like in order to, when you're experiencing hard times, right, it's already difficult enough. You have so many people maybe feeding you negative information. You have intrusive thoughts coming into your mind about like, yo, I can't deal with this. There's no way that I'm going to be able to handle all that I'm experiencing. And it doesn't matter, whether it's a disability, the loss of a loved one, loss of a job, you're relocating somewhere new and you're kind of apprehensive about that. And I feel like what my music provides is a sense of comfort and what have you, because I'm not talking from a person that hasn't been through something, right? Experience is key. And most people, when they want to learn something, they don't necessarily always go to the beginning of a book or some type of instruction manual. Sometimes, because the instruction manual don't necessarily like talk back to you in real time, you need somebody to be able to say, hey man, when it was me, when I was going through X, Y, and Z, this is what I did to come up out of that and whatnot. And I feel like that's easier to listen to somebody right by your side, that you can bounce ideas off of and create dialogue and communicate, that they're going to be able to talk to you as you're going through it. That's why I think mentorship is so important. You know what I mean? I can give you a brochure on self-help books and stuff like that, but a mentor, somebody that's along like your age or with your same experience level, they can talk to you about some of the same situations and help you get up out of that. And I feel like my music can provide that.
Right. And I'm sorry, you was gonna say something?
No.
Oh, so it's 4 albums. I don't know how I lost track last time I talked to you. I thought it was 2, but when you let me know you had new stuff come out, I went back and looked. And I'm saying it's 4. So you've been grinding now. You got with Hip Hop in Mind, Volume 1 was 2018.
Yeah.
13th year, 2019. The only year, then you got with Hip Hop in Mind, Volume 2, 2021, and then now Head Above Water, 2022. The only year you didn't drop an album was 2020, but you did do a lot of the Saturday Slaughters where you came up and you spit over beats. So you've been, grinding for the last 5 years with your music.
Yeah. So like in our last conversation, I was telling you, I was like, yeah, I got more on the way. So at the time, yeah, you're right. Like I only had 2 albums, but I was anticipating dropping that 3rd album and what have you. So then when it all happened, I think I was trying to drop it on the birth of hip hop, hip hop's birthday, which is like August 9th or so, something to that effect. I wanted to drop it on that day, but I wasn't able to. But yeah, I had all that work in the stash.
You sonically, when you're making your music, when you're making your beats, what are you looking for? Like,
no, go ahead.
and I was gonna say, because like I'm I grew up in more in like the boom bap era, so I'm partial to that, and I'll get into my favorite song after that.
Okay.
But sonically, what you looking for?
I think that's the freedom of being an independent artist. You know what I mean? Like I try not to. I try to pay homage to the culture while at the same time knowing that what's the most important thing to me is the messaging and what have you. So not necessarily on the album top to bottom, it's gonna necessarily flow like sonically and what have you. I try to do that more so with albums like with hip hop in mind, um, because it's the essence of hip hop. But I was taking it more from the perspective of the influence of particular artists and certain sounds that they had or certain dialogues that they had. Like for instance, with Four Pillars, you know what I mean? I compare myself doing like Nas's like, but I instead of comparing myself to a bunch of randomness, I wanted to compare myself to things that pertain to the four pillars of hip hop, b-boy and DJ and MC and graffiti artists and such. I think on Head Above Water, though, I took more time to make sure I had a cohesive sound to it, along with a more relevant like flow patterns and what have you. So that album, I would say, out of all of the other three, probably flows together better sonically.
Would you say that that's because they're all personal? I listened to all of the albums; they're all personal. Would you say um, Head Above Water is more personal?
I would say Head Above Water is like, all right, so with hip hop in mind, those two, they're more towards like just a generalization, right? You know what I mean? Like I on most of those songs, I don't even think I mentioned my accident like virtually at all. I just focus more on dope content like bar for bar stuff and what have you. But 13th Year and Head Above Water, they're kind of like, my freshman release and then my sophomore release. And that's where it turns more personal and whatnot. Head Above Water, I wanted to give people a more insight as to what happened, because I didn't really do that on 13th Year and whatnot. Like I said in one of the verses on the self-entitled song Head Above Water, I said '05 was the time I haven't addressed it, because I knew on 13th Year that's not what that album was based upon and whatnot. This was more about getting into the weeds while at the same token showing you how I got up out of there as well. And I wanted to give people like a glass half full, half empty. So as you're listening to the project, you'll notice that I go from like kind of like darkness going into the light and what have you. The album cover, it's almost like there's half sea and then there's half sky. There's a mountain, and we know the mountain has things beneath the ground and whatnot, like as far as like rocks and etc. There's a portion of it that's at the base, but then it's towering to the sky. That ship half sunk, but it's half up. My body half in the water, but it's half up. And so I wanted to create that type of imagery to let people know that, you should want to look at the glass being half full and not half empty.
So you are full on when you do a project, from the production to picking out the people you want to do features with, the artwork, like everything. You from A to Z with your production and your music.
Yeah, I want to make sure, like, because you put it out there and you can't get it back. You know what I mean? You can't correct it. You can try to take it down, but the internet is forever, right? So for me, I'm just like, I want to make sure as an independent artist, I'm putting out the best product. I don't want to do it half-hearted. I don't want it to be on some old like, well, I pick whatever random beat because I just thought it was dope or whatever like that. I want to be like, okay, striking certain melodies and chords that's going to provoke you to laugh, cry, get frustrated, look at my situation, go, man, like I don't know if I could do it. I want you to question it, because not question it because like you feel bad for me or anything, but but question it in terms of learning how to appreciate your life. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy. You know what I mean? Like recording, making your own beat with your mouth and what have you. Like these things are difficult as it is, but at the same token, I just want to give people the best product possible.
So like in your messaging, you interweave, a lot of your stories. Like you talked about those two albums. That gets more in depth about it. Your accident and the recovery in your lyrics.
Yeah.
Do you ever get like emotionally fatigued when it comes to talking about it, or is it all, cathartic and therapeutic?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, sometimes I listen to a song and I'm like, dang, you really went through that. You know what I mean? It might be in my head, but then, what's old to me is new to somebody else. So then when they listen to it, it's going to be fresh for them. And so I try to listen to my music back as though like I don't even know me. And what would I be thinking if I heard a person talking about they snapped their neck and they were preparing themselves to drown? Like you're preparing to die. Like we all don't know the time and place when it's going to happen. But when you know the time and place and you're in the time and place and you're preparing for what seems imminent, you know what I mean? I want people to get something from that. And so when I listen back to it, sometimes it's hard. Like, man, I can't believe like I've been living through this for 17 years. You know what I mean? So it's definitely therapeutic as well as like, emotion provoking, even for myself.
You alluded to in the first time we talked, you alluded to like having to change, how the things you were writing. So you talked about, I couldn't talk about, whipping the car and then you took out your cursing. Like it was a lot of cursing that you had to do. You had to take out of there.
So the interesting thing about that is like, I still got like some of that music from back then, right? And I listened to myself. Back then I wasn't swearing that much, and I got some songs that there's no profanity on it. I didn't plan it though. I just write like that, and so I realized taking that information from then and even now, like you're already moving this way anyway. You know what I mean? And sometimes I find that like the profanity, not only like do my children and my mom, listen to my music and what have you, you know what I mean? But and it's like, I don't swear in front of my own mother. So like she listens to the music and be like, oh, why Corey, why you say that? Or what have you? Or my kids are gonna be like, what daddy, why you say that? Or what have you, or you said a bad word. So I wanted to lead by example. And then I also think that like sometimes swearing is just, it's too much of a filler. Like I get the emphasis and the anger, like, you break your neck. The first word fudge is not gonna come out your mouth. I mean, that's like we keeping it a stack. But at the same token, it challenges me when I write because I could find a dope bar or think of a dope bar, and I'm like, oh man, if I said it this way, it would sound crazy. But then my brain thinks harder and goes, you know what? Nah, you say the same thing, and then you don't have to put that in there, and that'll make it even more unique and whatnot. And I've been rapping like that. Like I said, my trajectory was always going this way, but I've been doing it for a long time, a long time.
Yeah, so I want to go back a little bit to, like I said, I'm from that boom bap era. So my
Yeah.
favorite by far is Iron Bars.
Mm.
And then you allowed me to use it for my outro, so that was cool
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Um, when you write in the like that, like Iron Bars, and when you're doing a Saturday Slaughter,
yeah. Mm.
like that's more of that's more of a flex, right? You're thinking more like I'm just flexing my muscle a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, rap is a competitive sport, and everybody wants to feel like they nice lyrically and whatnot. And I just want to be a part of that conversation to know that, like, look, you know, my walking may not be strong, but my pen game is strong. And I don't think anybody can dispute that, no matter if I'm talking about something inspirational. Because even in those bars, I put, you know, double or triple entendres and what have you, even in them, you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a flex, but at the same token, it's just me being creative. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always like for at one point with some of those side of the slide, I was writing like something every single week. And I would, like, you know, come Friday, I'd have it memorized, recorded on Saturday, write something uh for the whole week from Sunday to the next Friday, and then go memorize that and then go record it and whatnot for like a good stretch, like probably like a good month and whatnot. And some of these things are like 16 and up, you know what I mean? So, but it's just another side of you. It's kind of like acting. Like, a person don't want to be known for playing this one role, you know, all their life necessarily. They, you know, they want to be able to venture out and say, okay, I can work in a suspense flick, or I can do comedy as well, or I can do an action film. And that's what Saturday Slaughter represents, just getting some bars off or whatever like that. And just, you know, it keeps me sharp.
Yeah. Yeah. Iron Bars, that's one of my workout songs. When I'm in the gym.
Cool.
And I got a couple of songs that when you need that extra push, and when I get to that, and I'm like, okay, I got to repeat that. I'm saying like 8, 9 times, just boom, on repeat, on repeat. So that, to me, that's a flex. That's like you know what I'm saying? Just in case y'all didn't know, just in case.
Yeah. Like, you know, and Iron Bars is one of them joints that, like, when I had the idea for it, I was just hoping that, like, I could find the pieces. You know what I mean? Like, I was saying to myself one day, I was just like, yo, I was like, Iron Bars. Da, da, da. I'm like, nah, I never. I'm just like, yo, if I could find a royalty-free sample, I mean, the song is, you know, hundreds of years old. That's not like the artist in this day and age made that song. Like, London Bridge is old. But then I found a sample of it, and I was just like, yo, that's gonna be fire when I put it together. And so constructed the beat the way that I wanted to do, and just went from there. But yeah, I like Iron Bars a lot. Matter of fact, my friend had a showcase, and he asked me to kick a 16 and whatnot, and I spit Iron Bars.
Okay.
The first verse on that, yeah.
Yeah, that like that's one of the ones I went back like, wait a minute. The next time I heard it, I was like, oh, I didn't hear that. You know, the Pitbull line. You know what I'm saying? I didn't hear that the first time, or that didn't mean something different when I went back. So that's like when I say like that's the era I'm from, where the focus was on bars. So I definitely appreciate that. That's my favorite song. Is that you have a favorite and you have a best song, or two different things, or it's one and the same for you?
Oh man. I like Last Account a lot. Um and Last Account has been a thought in my mind going back to when I first heard Nas do Last Words. And I used to say to myself back then when I heard it, I was just like, yo, I want to remake that song, but I'm gonna do it from the perspective like of a slave escaping and stuff like that. Um, and then because that's what he said, there's the last words of a hanging slave. And that just prompted me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna write something like crazy like that and whatnot. And you know, you fast forward to 20 years later, you know, I had the opportunity to do it. So like Last Account is definitely one of those ones for me. You Should Know for 13th Year is definitely a fire track that I listen to often. Um, Man, it's a lot of them. Endurance off of this album. Endurance is another one that I like, and I got a video for that too. I just haven't released it yet, but yeah. I mean, there's a few of them that I'm just like. Sometimes I'm just like, man, yo, my pen impressed me on that one.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I like to look back and be like, yo, like yeah, you did that one.
Do you think your mindset, because your accident changed you physically?
Right.
I saw this interview. I don't it was it was it was the DOC, and they was talking about him. He had the car accident and he lost his voice. And he said that, like, Dr. Dre told him, like, you needed to lose your voice to save your life. Do you feel like you know, your accident changed your mindset? Because you have a song called Gerard,
Yeah.
and that's about your caretaker of yours, and you alluded to, like, you had some thoughts about, before, like, this the type of person he was, but like your experience with him just being nothing but, nice and accommodating, changed, how you looked at somebody like him.
Yeah, it did because when you're not experiencing um something traumatic that's long lasting, or yeah, essentially, like if it's not like long lasting, you tend to forget about everybody else, right? Like you may slander, you may gossip about somebody, you may feel like you're better than everybody, right? And then like you get something could happen to you, you lose a leg or you unable to talk. Now you could have one or two choices. You can learn from it, or you could be, stubborn and hard headed and still continue the same activity. You got some of these guys out here that literally have gotten shot, right? And still go back to the streets and then end up losing their life instead of just leaving the streets because the bravado and the pride of life will have you sticking in a situation that is just like, listen, somebody gunning for you, yo, I'm sorry, like you don't know if you can get the best of a person in that situation. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so for me, um, with Gerard, it helped me to realize like, yo, this world is much bigger than yourself and whatnot, and you don't have to agree with people or the choices that another person makes, but you can honor them and you can still respect them nonetheless. And he treated me with nothing but fairness and impartiality, um, and care for me, and a big part of what got me through being in the hospital for 5 months. I had somebody that was in my corner, and when he started getting sick, I was like, I was sad by that because I'm just like, you got so many people who cherish you, and for you to now be in a position, now you're incapacitated, now somebody has to turn around and take care of you, and that's what happens in life, right? On one minute you good and you're doing all the taking care of and helping people, and then the reversal happens, and then you find yourself needing to be cared. So people got to be careful about how they assess things and how they can be judgmental, because you don't want to be the person that's being judged after you did all of the judging.
Yeah, that like that song, um, it hit me a little different because that's kind of what I want to do with the channel here, is like, create an atmosphere where, if people that may have different perceptions about each other, whether it be, racially, gender, you know, um, you know, different sizes, whatever, colors,
Right.
you may where we seem to be so separate, or at least from my perception, there seems to be a lot of separation. And um, I think that song kind of reminded me of, like, the mission of, like, you know, actually having conversations with people and including people in these conversations,
Yeah,
different people. And so when you're doing that, it's like we on a panel, me and you on a panel, or you got somebody else on the panel, and through the conversation, you see somebody like across either the screen or on the panel, and you can see the humanity in them. Because I do believe that we have more in common than than our differences. And that song was like one of those things where you confessing, like, yeah, man, I used to look at you or somebody like you in a certain way, but then here you are taking care of me. And then even to the point where when he got sick, and ultimately passed, he left an impression on you. So thought that
yeah,
song was super dope.
thank
Um so everybody like everybody is always asking the top five. So I got to get your top five MCs. No particular order, but what's your top five?
Oh man. Um, in no particular order, probably it has to be Nas, definitely up there. It's mainly all my influences, Mad Skills,
Mm,
Big L, Snoop, and then I'd have to put them all on one pillar, but it would be the Wu, because it's like all five of those, people, those entities are what I listen to heavily. And mind you, I listen to like other people that be like on my other, kind of like mountain, like, I listen to a lot of Black Thought, um, as well, like just the roots, in general, you know what I mean? They were definitely influential behind the pen. A lot of like, I don't know, underground artists like Pharoah Monch, um, you know what I mean? Even up to the, the Fabulouses and all of them, because like I respect people pen so much, like in terms of like when you can put that thing together and make it make sense to me, it just it's a remarkable thing, you know what I mean? Like I don't knock what other, people do, that's their lane, that's their niche, but when you can paint a picture and that picture can get produced through the audio conduit, man, you got me as a listener.
so what makes a in your mind, what makes a good MC?
Um, you got to have a number of things. I think you got to be able to perform well. I think you need to be able to write well. Um, and I think you need to not be so um, stagnant in the way that your music sounds. So, like, generally speaking, what I've noticed all the time about artists is it don't matter what album they drop, they everybody talks roughly about the same subjects, but it's how you talk about the same subject. So a rapper that talks about, you know, their lucrative ventures and whatnot, they just flip their words a little bit about it. But if it's a song about credit, it's a song about credit. You know what I mean? Now, you may not open up the eyes of somebody who has great credit, who understands it, but they can appreciate it. But for the person that got the 450 score, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, wow, how do I build my way up there? You're still talking about it, and you can gravitate the same audiences. One is just going to have a deeper appreciation for it. The other one is going to be able to learn from it and whatnot. So I think you got to be able to sell what you're saying in a tasteful manner that doesn't go so far over people's heads. You know what I mean? Sometimes, like you said, like some things you didn't catch. You know what I mean? And it's purposely. It's done that. It's like I write like, "Where's Waldo?" You know what I mean? Like I'm not. You're not there to turn the page and be like, "Ah, there he is," and then move on to the next. What's the point of purchasing the book if you can get through it that fast? I'm trying to get you to be on some mode, yo. I got to read chapter 3 all over again.
Right.
'Cause, man, like there's some, points right there that I need to really understand. So I think you need to be able to do those 3 or 4 things um, pretty well. You know what I mean? To mark yourself as an MC, and I think you ought to you got to be able to write your stuff too. You know what I mean? Like
What
no.
whatever 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 do you mean?
like when it comes down to the art of emceeing, I don't think ghostwriting is emceeing. You know what I mean? I'm not telling the person that they can't ghostwrite or whatever, and perform a song. That's cool. That's fine. Or even somebody ghostwrite your hook or something like that. That's different. But your verses though, like your bars and whatnot, to be like in this realm and pantheon of emceeing that we talk about, that's important. Um, is you put the thought behind your pen, not anybody else. So I mean, I think that's ideal. It's like the standard.
You remember you probably remember your first rhyme. You remember when you said like after writing it and hearing it, you were like, oh, okay, I'm on to something. Like when you first, or maybe like when somebody first told you was nice.
Yeah. I can't offhand. I can't think of it like right at the moment, but I had this conversation with my boy Merk, brother, and I remember him saying, "Yo, you nice, but I don't want to hear that Killer Army stuff," because that was another one of them groups within
Uh-huh.
the Wu franchise that I was rocking heavily to, and so you're only going to mimic what you listen to. Cannabis, that's another person, and so my pen was just on like this like war kind of stuff, but then it was just like, all right, trying to listen to other people and how they scheme or how they put their metaphors together just became a whole different thing. But like it was just a continual growth after that point. You know what I mean? Like, all right, yeah, you might be nice right now, but you gotta be able to move on and do other works. But yeah. My first rhyme, it was different though. But like, it was cool. It was cute. It was cute.
But you can see the progression now when you look back. You're like, okay, that was a little, and
Yeah, I mean, like if I spit it now, I think it, sound better than what some people put up today.
right,
I would give it that much credit, but you know what I mean. It's I'm personally leagues away from what I was doing. When I first ever wrote around.
right. All right. So I'm burning up in here right now,
Yeah, I can
and
see, man.
but I definitely I want to end the interview, but so I know last time I asked you for some words of encouragement or inspiration,
Mhm.
um, and you were gracious about that, and so I'm gonna do it again
Yeah,
because
cool.
I think you're an example of somebody that um, look has excuse me, obstacles, but you were able to, you know, emotionally, mentally overcome those obstacles, and then from there flourish, and then from there find things that you love to do and do that: family, wife, kids, music. So I think you will be the perfect person to um leave an inspirational quote. Before that,
Yeah,
we're just let everybody know where they can find you and your music.
definitely, man. I go by the name Pheez, man, Pheez. You can find me on Instagram at Pheez83. On YouTube, it's Pheez. It's not Feezy. It's not Fleazy. There's none of that. It's, with anything that come up that's not Pheez, and you see a little black and white circle, guy in a wheelchair, that's me. Twitter, no hidden fees, at no hidden fees. Um, and I'm on all major streaming platforms: Spotify, Deezer, Apple, Tidal, however you stream music, Pandora. You can find all of my works on there.
All right, so um, leave us with a little bit of inspiration.
And so, honestly, I want everybody to take from my experience as being a young, vibrant, 22-year-old to now, a 39-year-old man, and know that whatever circumstance that you may fall into, trust that there's growth in those dark times, in those dark places. Don't worry so much about when will it be over, because if I tell people this all the time, if a plant could talk, it probably would tell you it does not want to be pruned. But if you don't prune it, it doesn't grow. And so if you can be willing to be pruned in your circumstances, in your situation, you'll grow. So, I hope people, can apply that to whatever it is that they experience. And today, tomorrow, whenever.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Before we go, just want to check the chat, see if anybody has any questions. I see just a lot of chatter, people digging the interview. If not, then I'm gonna get on out of here. I'll thank everybody for dealing with. My shirt soaked. I'm sweating. I'm up here looking big and sweaty on camera. I know everybody like, yo, what is going on?
That's how you keep that water.
Yeah. I've been sipping it, but anyway, thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, like, share, subscribe, and come back, because what I'm going to do over here is positive. I want to do inspiration, and in general, just talk to people, different walks of life, and enjoy each other's company. And like I said before, show that we are much more similar than we are different. So, y'all, peace out.
Yes. And this swag goes hard, so it gotta come equipped with, only way to the top, push up, then I drop these. The scales will tell if I train well. The song stupid strong, my name ring dumbbells. Attack the track, 100 pounds around ankles. Muscle man running laps in the sand. Physical, I'm fit. Stereos pump fans get diesel. The music's like a rep to your pet. Tall rails or spotter, you got a problem. This is colossal. Train on one.